Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I'm Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Tony Gold. This is our post-match show of Fulham's 1-1 draw against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. There's a lot to talk about in regards to this match. I was thinking about doing a full-time show. I'm like, you know what? Let's just go for it. Let's do a full-on post-match show. Go through some talking points. Talk about what this means. There's a lot to get through, Tony. And before we do, just want to mention this show is live. I'm on Facebook. I'm on my X account. I'm also on YouTube. This match is free for everyone to listen and to watch. It's our post-match show. But if you are interested, I am doing a daily show for the month of January. We'll be on the Cottage Talk Patreon page. It'll be exclusively there. And if for some reason I can get an additional 50 subscribed members, paid members, I will extend that daily show all the way to the end of the season. So just want to mention, if you're interested, please do go to patreon.com/Cottage Talk. All right, my friend, we talked about this match at halftime. I haven't talked to you since. I don't know how you're feeling. Give me your opening thoughts on this 1-1 draw.
Putting everything in perspective, it's a good point, but definitely 2 drop, Russell. No question about it.
Absolutely. No question at all. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously, the last 20 minutes completely dominated the game and created, 2 unbelievable chances that really we should have scored. The Castagna absolutely has to score, no question about it. And Anderson, with a little bit more of composure in that position, should have scored as well. And we had our chances to absolutely win it comfortably. That's the truth of the matter. But listen, it wasn't to be today. But as I said, it's still a good point given, the fact that we were 1-0 down. So we've come back and we've, got ourselves back into the game. And I'm sure we'll talk about, that moment as well.
Yeah.
So all in all, as I said, good point away from home. But for me, definitely 2 dropped.
Absolutely 2 points dropped. Hands down, 2 points dropped, Tony's. If we factor in what happened at the end of the match, like you said, the last 20 minutes, we have Tom Kearney coming on, changes the game once again. We'll talk about that. With everything going on, the goal that they've given up, which is extremely preventable, we're going to talk about that. The fact that they bossed the first half, bossed it. Again, not enough cutting edge, but they were controlling the match. I've seen this way too many times. To go in the half down 1-0 was just extremely frustrating. But to find a way to get a point, and in my opinion, should have gotten all 3 with the way things ended up at the very end of the match. Scored. Yes, it's 2 points dropped, Tony, but in the whole scheme of things, Fulham are now on, well, what are we on, 27 points? It's not so terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, it's keeping that run going. And I said, that's now 4 unbeaten going into Liverpool on Sunday, who, also were held today against Leeds. So, look, I think it's just about, about consistency. I think the one thing that definitely showed today is that the group as a collective are starting to look a little bit leggy. And obviously we've got a lot of games coming up and we've got a thin bare squad as it is. And then obviously with Tete now going off injured, is that going to be another injury that we're going to have to deal with? Josh King, obviously not available today. Is that another long-term injury? So, it's starting to stack up and obviously, we've got to get busy in that transfer market. We've got to bring in some bodies. We have to strengthen. So, but look, today was about not losing. And, Fulham have achieved that. As I said, good point. 2 dropped. Should have won it. Absolutely should have won it, given the chances that we've missed at the end. But sometimes that's football. It just doesn't quite go your way when you need it to.
Absolutely, Tony. It's frustrating, but sometimes you get a draw and you have to just analyze the draw and say, you know what? It's still a good point, like you've just said. But it's frustrating. It's so frustrating based on what we're talking about. But also, it should be a little bit of an encouragement to the Cons and the board to say, listen, we are this close. We are absolutely this close. Give Marco the players he needs to take us to the next level. We're getting all these players back as well. They're this close. The depth is now being challenged because they're having issues. We'll talk about Josh King not being available at all. I'm going live. I've not heard any reason yet. I'm sure a reason will come out hopefully soon on that, but that actually was something that I think affected Fulham. So to get a point out of this, Tony, it would have been great to win 4 straight, 3 straight, and a draw against Crystal Palace. Like I said, not so terrible. So I think that's a good way to start the show. But I've got a good amount of Cottage talking points, and there's going to be good and bad in this. And that's why I like doing this type of show where we can really dive into things I'm thinking about coming out of the match. And Tony, this is the first place. And again, we will talk about how Kearney changed the game and obviously his goal and all the good stuff at the end, even though we didn't score. I have to start here. Let's talk about the goal given up by Fulham. Cuenca and Jedi are responsible for Crystal Palace's goal. Cuenca for, let's just say, his theatrics. Let's just call it what it is. It was a little bit theatrical, and he has to go off for 30 seconds. And what ends up happening, they score, and Jedi does not do well enough defensively. Tony, this is the first place I want to get your thoughts on.
Yeah, it was all round a really poor situation, and then obviously the situation that led to the goal was even worse. Look, Cuenca, unfortunately, this is where the Spanish in him comes out. He's taken a little tap to the face, gone down like he's been smashed by, Anthony Joshua. Then obviously that stopping play then has caused Fulham to lose momentum. He's then had to go off the pitch, which I didn't understand anyway, because if the referee stopped it for a head injury, then he should just be allowed to get up, get back into position, and we carry on. But obviously he's gone off. That then puts us down. Our centre half is off the pitch, which means that position is now being filled in. So this is all on Cuenca. This is absolutely all on Cuenca. And if I was Marco Silva at half-time, I would have absolutely read him the riot act, absolutely gone mad.
Yeah.
However, there is still another phase of play, and Anthony Robinson has to be ashamed of the way that he defended that situation 1v1. I'm sorry, but in that situation, Russell, he's got to absolutely smash Klein. When he sees that ball 50-50, he's got to take the ball, go through the player, win everything, and be strong. And this is where Anthony Robinson lets himself down as a left back, as a defending left back. He cannot defend those situations, and it was really poor.
Yeah.
And then obviously the ball's come across the box, no one's reacted, and there's Mateta, who hasn't scored against Fulham ever. He hasn't scored for 7 games, I think, and we've just given it to him on a plate. And a really, really poor goal to concede and give away.
It really was, Tony. Like I said, up until that point, can you remember really much that Crystal Palace was offering?
The game was dire at that stage. It was just a dire game of football. There was nothing. It was basically two mediocre teams going backwards and forwards. That's all it was. There wasn't a shot on target in 15 minutes. It was just a poor game. It was just a poor game of football. Like I said, 2 mediocre teams. That's it.
Okay. Oh, I have to share this because we're going to talk about Emil Smith Rowe.
Yeah, we were going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about this because he actually played a full game. So, Ben, thank you so much for sharing that. But I do want to talk about Smith Rowe because I think that's something that we'll be talking about coming up soon in one of our talking points. But yeah, that first half, like you said, not much in it. Fulham dominated the play. I feel like it felt a little bit like the match at Craven Cottage. It felt similar, right? But unfortunately,
you know what it was, Russ? It was just devoid of any real quality. That was the issue. It was just like, as I said, 2 teams that were, having a Sunday afternoon stroll around in the park and not really any quality from either group, really. It was just nothing. It was just a nothingness.
Yeah. No, I'm there with you, Tony. And then, of course, like I said, they score the goal, and honestly, they were then really in the ascendancy, and we're looking for the second. Give them credit for that. And then, again, we go back and forth. Fulham had opportunities as well, but they go in the half down 1-0, and I'm not feeling great. You and I talked at halftime, but I just want to share this with the audience. You and I did talk, and I think what was frustrating both of us, we were talking about this, is that Crystal Palace were there for the taking, Tony. Let's just talk about what you and I were talking about at halftime. They were there, and I think this goal just really just took this out of us.
The goal definitely, gave us a mountain to climb at that point, and obviously we're on the back foot. But we talked about halftime. We talked about Tom Cairney getting on that pitch as soon as possible, right? We talked about getting one of the holding midfield players off, whether Sander Berg or Sasa Lukic. I thought Lukic actually, but whatever. And it needed somebody like in the last game actually, where Cairney comes on and starts to control the tempo in midfield, gets his foot on the ball and gets us playing. And the quicker he got on the pitch, the quicker that Fulham were going to get back into that football match. And I was surprised that Silva left it as late as he did.
He did leave it late. Let's just go right to it, because I want to talk about Cairney, because Cairney, great goal, by the way. I want to get your thoughts on the goal, but just the overall tone. You're watching this, right? And it was screaming for him. It was totally screaming for him. So just talk about, you've already mentioned a little bit, but let's also factor in the end of that match where the pressure was building, and you could argue that Fulham deserved that goal from Tom Cairney because it was coming. The announcers, Ian Dark, was really talking about, he felt like this was coming. So what did you make of what Cairney meant? And then obviously share your thoughts on the goal too.
Yeah, look, other than Emil Smith-Rowe and maybe Josh King to a degree, Tom Cairney is the only other player in this Fulham squad that has the technical ability to get Fulham passing and moving forward and breaking lines. And the minute that he came on, he changed the dynamic in our midfield, because what he is, he's forward thinking, Russell. He doesn't go backwards, sideways. What he does is he looks after the ball. He picks the right decisions to move it, and he always tries to pass forward and gets the momentum of us getting forward. And also, once that happened, we started to move Raul into a position where he could affect the game. And what was happening in the first half is that, how many times did you see Raul in the box and our wide players get the ball in wide areas and put balls into the box? It didn't happen. It never happened, not once. But as soon as Cairney's on that pitch, suddenly the shape of the team changes. We are forward thinking. We're a little bit more dynamic in midfield, and suddenly Crystal Palace are slightly now a bit more on the back foot. Yeah. And that's what happened. And obviously it took Cairney 15, 20 minutes to grow into the game because he needs to get up to the speed. But once he was there on 80 minutes, we create the opportunity. Lukic finds a space, finds Cairney, and it's a sublime finish. And only Tom Cairney's got that composure and that quality to score those types of goals. No other player does. And again, he showed his qualities, Russ.
He absolutely did, Tony. Listen, you and I talked about it in a prior show, and I don't know how many supporters would agree with us with the situation Fulham have with the quote unquote double pivot, right? You and I have talked about this till we're blue in the face. And they even talked about, again, Ian Dark I'm talking about the broadcast, was talking about Iwobi, what Fulham were missing without Iwobi. They absolutely are missing something without Fulham without Iwobi. Cairney offers you something different than Iwobi, but it's that ability to, like you said, break lines, to get the play going forward, to get the players in position to do something. That's what Tom Cairney does. That's what Alex Iwobi does too. Fulham were missing that, Tony. They were totally missing that. So that's why Cairney came on, and then it continued to the very end. It absolutely, who was more likely to score? Now, again, we could talk about Crystal Palace having opportunities. They absolutely did. They totally did. And when we break down both halves, we could talk about their opportunities. I'm talking about Crystal Palace. But I now want to go here. I want to talk about the missed opportunities, especially late. Kept it a draw, because it's not that Fulham created all these opportunities, but the header from Raul early in the second half, Tony, hits the post.
Yeah, it's unlucky.
Oh, you got that. But the one that I think will have Castagna up at night is
he's got to score. It's as simple as that.
And then Anderson, who, again, I understand, being a center back, not having that opportunity, but like you've already said, he's in position, probably a rush of blood, and it just goes over. Right there as well. These two opportunities and the Raul one, Tony, That's why coming out of this, you and I are talking about it's 2 points dropped.
Yeah, look, I think the Real one, I think he'll be disappointed that he didn't score. I think he's unlucky, but that was the first time in the whole game that we delivered a ball into the box and got him in the right area. So, if you're going to put balls in the box and get Raul into those positions, he is going to cause problems. And, as I said, he was unlucky not to score. He'll feel disappointed that he didn't score, but that was a great, that was a good opportunity. The Castagna one, if that falls to any other Fulham player on the pitch, that's a goal. That is a goal. And actually, I don't know why he decided to go high with it. All he had to do was just keep it low, strike it, and just strike it and just like place it home, and it's a goal. It's a goal. You can't, you've given he's put it in the one place that Henderson can save it, unbelievably. Yeah. But he's got to score that. I mean, that's a goal. It has to be a goal, and I just cannot understand how he hasn't scored that. And then obviously Anderson, listen, it's a little bit more difficult, but again, with a little bit more composure, rather than thrashing at it like he has, if he just composes himself and just, takes that little bit of time, he should score. He should score. So as I said, definitely 3 great opportunities. And at the end of the day, as I said, we've dropped 2 points. Simple.
Yeah, we've dropped 2 points. Now, currently Fulham are 10th in the table, but regardless, they will end up 11th because of the match coming up. They will end up 11th after the match, the Tottenham match, because both will get points and one of them will leapfrog Fulham. So that's what it looks like. But anyways, when you think about it, where that would have put them, and again, I'm listening to the discussion and where it would have put either Crystal Palace or Fulham. That's how close things are. That's how close they are. This close. And I hope, like I said, I think the theme should be, you're this close. Mr. and Mrs. People might say Mr. and Mrs., but the 2 cons, get it done. Get it done for Marco Silva and your club. Bring the players in he needs to take Fulham to Europe, because I can't believe I'm saying this because we're halfway through the season. We're kind of in the same situation we were last season, Tony, but it's a little different because they got all these players. Fulham have all these players coming back. Fulham should be stronger. But history tells us that Fulham fade in the second half of the season. So I'm saying to them, the cons, stop the fade by bringing in these players. Identify the players and bring them in.
We're in the level of mediocrity, Russ. That's where we are. And
get us out of mediocrity.
Exactly. We know, and I said we want to be a good side. We want to be a consistent good side. But in order to step out of that level, you've got to bring in better players. And look, we are still, we have still got 5 or 6 players unavailable, not around, who all would have made a big difference today, in my opinion. There's no question about it. So, we have to keep that in mind. But we are 2 or 3 quality players away from stepping out of mediocrity into being a good, consistent side. That is the level at the moment.
We're this close. We are, as I say, mid-table mediocrity. That's what we are right now.
Yep.
You got to call it the way it is. We're mid-table mediocrity, but we're this close, as you said, because I won't call them a good side yet. I won't call them a good side. I said good sides win matches, find ways to win, right? They're Fulham this close to being a good side. Reinforcements are needed. Hands down. Game changers, not squad players, game changers. Didn't get it done in this summer. Get it done now. All right. Tony, I think you're going to like the next one because you've already mentioned him. Let's talk once again. We're talking a lot about him, but I'm watching Smith Rowe, and I feel like I'm watching a different player, Tony. Talk about what you watched from him today, and he looks like transformed.
He was industrious, as he's playing at a very good level at the moment, Russ. He's got himself fit, sharp. He was industrious, forward thinking, tried to make things, tick, worked incredibly hard. Delighted to see him finally complete a full 90 plus minutes. which was great to see, and good for his confidence. And look, he's becoming a very integral player for us now, and we're going to see in the next couple of games, Liverpool and Chelsea, because I think this is where I always set the barometer as far as Fulham are concerned. We've played 3 really poor sides: Crystal Palace, mediocrity. Now we're playing the big boys in the next couple of games, and I want to see where this Fulham team is actually at against good, strong, quality players. So, let's see what Smith Rowe does in the next couple of days. But, at the moment, he's integral to everything that's good about Fulham going forward. And, we just need to keep him fit and healthy. And, he will only get better, Russ. I still don't think we've seen the best of him.
No, I agree with you, Tony. That's what's exciting about Smith Rowe right now, is that I don't think we have at all either. And I'm just enjoying seeing the transformation. We've talked about it a great deal on Cottage Talk. You could see that there's a good player. Could see it. Now it's coming to fruition. So I want to keep talking about it when we're going to call, like we said, if the player is playing well, we're going to talk about it. You ready for the flip side? We gave you the good. Now let's go to the other side. We have to talk about Kevin again, okay? It's continuing to struggle, Tony. He's trying. You could see this kid is trying. What's going on with Kevin?
I think today he had some good moments, but again, it's such a mixed bag. It's such a mixed bag of, he drifts in the game, he drifts out the game. He's in the game, he's out the game. Then he gets into good areas. He then puts, a lot of balls into areas that are wasted. Maybe some of those balls that he put in, actually, I thought were quite good, and players didn't read it and recognize that those balls were good. So sometimes when he puts a good ball in, it looks like a bad ball because other players haven't read his intentions. I think he was better today, Russ, than he was in the last game. But obviously, look, there is a lot more to come from this lad. I have no doubt about it.
I totally agree with that.
But at this moment in time, it's just not happening. And if it hasn't happened for him against Burnley, Forest, West Ham and Palace, I don't see it happening for him against Liverpool and Chelsea, because he's going to be up against far better defenders, much more physicality. Yep. And I just see him really struggling in those next 2 games. I really do. I just don't see how he's going to impact anything. So, look, at the moment, I think once the boys from Nigeria are back, he needs to be, as I said, taken out the fire line, given a rest. And it's all about, as Chris rightly says there, it's all about next season for Kevin, not this season.
Totally agree. And listen, to be honest with you, I might be a little bit harsh on him. Maybe I should said it the way that you said it. The minute you said it, I said that should have been the tag here. It should have been Kevin was a mixed bag. Maybe that is better than to say Kevin continues to struggle. Kevin was, as Ben said, okay. So I got this one wrong because he wasn't terrible, and maybe saying continues to struggle is harsh. I don't mean it to be harsh.
I think the way you got to look at it, Russ, is what are you asking? What is Kevin in the team there to do, right? What does Marco Silva want from Kevin? And the position that he plays in, the area of the pitch that he plays in, it's to be an effective force in the final third from wide areas. What's the role of a wide player? To get one-on-one situations with the fullback, to beat the fullback, and to put deliveries into the box. As I said, it was a mixed bag today. Sometimes he did it, sometimes he didn't. But his end product at the moment isn't good enough. There is no quality end product. And at the moment, that is not good enough from someone playing in that position, because it's integral to what we need for Raul when he gets himself into good positions. So it's a problem at the moment, Russ. You can't deny it. It's a problem.
No, and that's why we're talking about, because this is a wonderful opportunity. But as we're also talking about, I think it's fair to say, and Ben mentions this, and I'll be the first to say, like you're saying, this could be an Emil Smith Rowe situation 100%, meaning next season, right? I used Alex Iwobi as the example. I think that will happen. It's just a difficult spot for him. As we're talking about, it's a mixed bag. Or as Ben says, okay, he's okay. Good moments, bad moments. That's a mixed bag. That's kind of where it is. I know this is going to sound harsh bringing this to you. Let's take out Kevin and say Chikwueze's there. Different match?
Yeah, but you know what? Just on that point, if Fulham do end up signing Chukwueze permanently, right, I
Yeah.
can see next season exactly the same situation as we had with Muniz, where Fulham loan out Kevin to a championship side for, let's say, 3 or 4 months for him to get that physicality, to get that confidence going, and then bring him back, just like they did with Muniz. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that situation. But yeah, of course, if Chukwueze was available today, we're talking completely different, completely different situation, completely different scenario.
Yeah. It's tough,
And
man.
that's the gutter of having these 3 players not available.
I know.
I know that's the killer.
I know, because if you look at the situation, that would have been Chikwueze. I totally believe, and I think things would have been different. But we knew this the summer. Marco harped on it. I think that's also part of the tension over the summer. I don't know exactly what was going on, but I think that's also part of it. Is now we're living mediocrity and this close to being good. The players need to be there. The return. Give me 3 more players. Give me 3 more players. And then let's go, because I think you're going to see a big difference. Okay, Tony, let's finish up with my Cottage Talk talking points. Talking about this, and I still don't have any information. I just went on X to see if I could find out some information. I already had someone put a comment about Josh King. I've seen comments that there are supporters that think we've sold Josh King. I kid you not. I'm telling you right now, that's not what's going on here. We'll find out, as you and I were talking at halftime. Either it's an injury, which we hope it's not. Maybe it's just an illness, which, okay, that to me would be the best case scenario. But I think Fulham missed Josh King today.
Apparently, we've sold him to Real Madrid, Russ, for 100 million.
I saw something stupid like that. I did. I actually saw someone put that up.
Obviously, look. The talk is that he picked up an injury. Who knows? I mean, it's either that or he's been ill over New Year or something. Whatever. It was a blow not to have him available today. Clearly, because someone like him can obviously change things and be an impact, and not having him was a blow. But
yeah, it was.
These things happen, and it's part of football. So let's just hope he gets himself well or fit for Sunday, because we need him.
Absolutely, totally agree. And our friend Chris is watching, and Chris, it should be an interesting match on Sunday. I look forward to your commentary once we do a show. All right, Tony, before we break down this match, let's now go to the starting 11. So it was pretty much predictable. I think we predicted this is what Marco would do. Maybe if Josh King was available, it could have been different. I don't know. What did you make of the starting 11 when you saw it? Obviously, I think the one thing that stood out was no Josh King on the bench.
I still believe that if Josh King had been fit today, he would have started and Kevin wouldn't. I genuinely do believe that in my heart. But yeah, look, no surprises. He's not going to change a side that has been on a run of 3. So he's gone with the same team, and it made perfect sense.
Yeah, it did. And I could understand it. We were talking about this on the previous show, and that maybe this is the perfect opportunity to play Smith Rowe and King together. And who knows, maybe it was going to happen and things didn't turn out that way because of something that happened to Josh King. And I will say this, it's very frustrating. Before we talk about and break down the match, when you see the starting 11, when you see the bench and a player is not there, and then you find out that Marco wasn't even asked in his pre-match interview by the media, what are you doing? Do your job. And I actually tweeted to Fulham, can someone please tell the supporters what happened to Josh King? Let us know. Please let us know. Because I'm telling you, this is part of the problem with the media coverage of Fulham Football Club. Nothing against Jack Kelly. Jack Kelly's the one that let everyone know that the broadcast media didn't do their job. The I don't know if it was Sky Sports or whoever it was. I don't know who it was who interviewed him. Didn't ask the question, and that's on them. It's not on Jack Kelly. Jack Kelly does a wonderful job, but if the job needs to be done, Tony, because I can just tell you over here, if a player's not playing, there's a statement put out by the team. It happens with the Celtics all the time. I'll use the Boston Celtics as an example. If a player can't play, they put out a tweet. They literally put out a tweet. They put out a statement. The reason for it. They will say, because it's usually an injury, and they'll go into some crazy detail of the injury, which I don't need, but this is what they do. The fact that Fulham did not do this is just disappointing, Tony. And I want to get your thoughts on it. Am I the only one that feels this way?
No, I can understand your frustration. It's a little bit peculiar to me to just be honest and open and just say, look, Josh King picked up an injury at training. He's got a slight strain in his thigh and he's not going to be fit. And then players, and then everybody knows what's happening. Everyone knows what's going on. It's all a bit weird. I don't understand the radio silence, and then suddenly everyone's just playing guessing games. It's a bit mad, really. So, look, yeah, I think it's just the day and age that we are now, and obviously, the way that the game is, and managers don't want to divulge too much about stuff that's happening. So, it's just something we just got to get used to and just sort of accept and move on with it, really. But it's a bit of a weird one.
It is. It totally is, and hopefully we will get some news on this soon, because I just feel that if this is Liverpool, and you telling me Liverpool or someone wouldn't find out this information, that's what's frustrating, is that the media coverage of Fulham is just not where it needs to be, that Fulham can get away with this without reporting it. Good or bad, just let the supporters know. Simple as that. Let them know. Let them know what's going on. Unfortunately, the club is not consistent with it. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. I've seen them do it before. So maybe Chris is right. I mean, it's a little worrying, but hopefully it is nothing. But we shall find out hopefully soon. All right. Coming up next, Tony and I will break down this match, and we'll end with man of the match. All right, Tony, let's finish up this show by just breaking down the match, analyzing both halves. And let's start with the first half. And, when I look back at the first half, I'm just looking over some notes, and there were a couple of opportunities. You had the opportunity from Harry Wilson and then Raul Jimenez right after that. Mark Gahey had a shot. Tete had an opportunity that just goes over. But everything changes when Jorge Cuenca goes off. So give me your analysis of what you watched in the first half.
Paint dry. No, it was awful. There was nothing in the game. It was literally, as I said, two absolutely mediocre teams going, backwards and forwards. Nothing was happening. Obviously, Cuenca got that stupid booking, which then put him under pressure. Then obviously went down with the facial injury, which then led to us, conceding that really poor goal. You're thinking this is just a typical Fulham performance, having come off the back of 3 wins. Again, I said it the other day, Russ, I don't think we've been playing particularly well, but we've managed to get results, and that's a sign of a side that's
heading the right
showing, but also, showing a bit of resilience, showing that they do have the ability to, ride it out. But we're not really gelling and clicking. Nothing really spectacular has happened. But again, we've dominated Palace today in pretty much every area. We've dominated them in possession, touches, passing. Every area we've dominated. But we haven't really, other than a point, we've got nothing to show for it. And I think that really summed up, the first half. We had a lot of dominance, but we didn't have anything to show for it other than being a goal down from our, stupidity, really.
Yeah. Absolutely, Tony. Uh, the way that I look at when I look back at the half, I kept hearing, like I said, I had Ian Dark as the play-by-play, and they were discussing the two announcers, Ian Dark being one of them. The wonderful passing by Fulham, right? How Fulham were bossing it. It was that final ball that was horrible. It kept happening over. It was the final ball. It was over and over again. It was just, again, this close. So for all of that slick passing at times that looked good, because I don't think Crystal Palace started offering that, I want to say, after they scored the goal, but they weren't offering anything before that point. We were offering, Fulham were offering that. So for me, kind of the same old issues, the same old problems that we've had. And then it's so frustrating because it almost feels like it's inevitable. Dominating the play and we give up the stupid goal. It's just, I guess that sums it up.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're lacking at the moment in attack, and this has a lot to do with Kevin, Harry Wilson, Raul, Smith Rowe to a degree, is that we are lacking, being clinical and ruthless in those situations. We had 17 shots today, Russ, in the game.
Really?
Five shots on target. Out of 17 shots, 5 were on target, right? 11 shots inside the box, and we haven't made the keeper work, other than Castagna, who, has got to score. Yeah. And that is the issue at the moment. From us, from an offensive point of view, we are not clinical. And that is where it needs to change. We have to be more clinical.
I think that's what it comes down to. That's why when I look at it, like I said, at the end of the half, both teams had some opportunities to score, but nothing came from it. So we're at the half down 1-0. You and I, like I said, talked at halftime. I was frustrated. You were frustrated. But as we said at the beginning of the show, we both felt like it was a disappointment because Crystal Palace were there for the taking. I will continue to say this. They were there
100%
for the taking. That's the frustrating part. If you're telling me Fulham are outmatched, outperformed, that's one thing. That wasn't what we were watching, especially in the first half. Second half, Crystal Palace were better for probably about that first half of the second half, but then Fulham, something happened when obviously Kearney came on, and it seemed like the end was all Fulham. Obviously, Crystal Palace had their moments too, but it was more to do with Fulham. So let's get to the second half. Before we really dive into what we watched here, one thing that happened in the first half that I think we have to talk about is the injury to Tete. And Tony Castagna comes on. I want to get your thoughts on the potential injury for Kenny Tete. Castagna, come on. And what did you think of Castagna? We've already talked about the mess. Let's talk about the defending.
Yeah, look, I think he came on and you know what? It's never easy coming into a game in that situation, especially in that position as well. But actually, when you think about his contribution, over the 40 minutes that he was on the pitch, he's actually had, quite an involvement in the time that he's been there. Yeah. I think he's picked up an opportunity to win the game for us. He's been involved. He's been involved in quite a few issues. He's picked up a yellow card. He's got himself involved in the game.
Yes, he did.
Obviously, the worry now is, what does that mean? For Tete now. But what's the issue there? So, and look, we know that he's Mr. Reliable Castagna, but he's no Kenny Tete. That's the bottom line. So
no, it's a drop off.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
We've learned that because at one point I thought Castagna was going to be the better player, but Kenny Tete won that argument 2 seasons ago. He totally did. He's the better player. But Castagna is, if we're, there are people that watch baseball, he's like a utility player, what we would call here. Like someone to come off the bench. I mean, that's the best way to put it. It's a utility player, just someone that can help you, but not someone that can start. It's not someone that you should be starting regularly in the Premier League. I've now come to that conclusion. If you have ambitions of going to Europe, Castagna is not good enough. Kenny Tete is. So that's why I'm glad that Kenny Tete is with us. So we'll have to see what happens with that injury, Tony. All right. So let's get back. Let's talk about the wonderful opportunity from Raul Jimenez, Tony. Oh, boy. So this to me, I'm thinking to myself, it's not, when this hits the post, it's not going to be our day. That was a thought that went through my head. What did you make of this opportunity?
Yeah, it was a good chance. I mean, there's no denying it. It was good play down down the left side. Kevin, actually did well, pulled it back to Robinson. Robinson's delivered a lovely ball. And as I said, Raul will be disappointed that he didn't score that, because I think that, you'd expect him, knowing that he scores goals for fun in those situations. But he just got the angle a little bit wrong. That's all. A little bit more to the right, and it goes in. That's just the luck. So, but I think at that point you could see that Fulham was starting to turn the screw, and I felt that at that point it was just a matter of time before we got another opportunity.
And we did, Tony. We absolutely did. But like we talked about already when we were going through the talking points, I think the turning point was Kearney coming on. Obviously, there were other substitutions. You got Traore coming on. Harrison Reed comes on. These players came on later. But the big one was Kearney. And just like in some of these other matches we've seen, Tony, I know Kearney can't go 90. Okay, I get that. But is it crazy? And I know Steve Reynolds has argued this with me, that he shouldn't start. My argument is, why can't you do the reverse? Why can't you start Kearney and then bring on, say, a Berger or a Lukic? Because, am I wrong to ask the question?
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think, but what you're doing there, Russ, is you're going from brave silver to then defensive silver. And I just feel that, look, Kearney is one of these players that, he's an impact player, 100%. When he comes on, he's got the experience, he's got the know-how, he's got the knowledge, and also he's got the quality that you need. And you saw that quite clearly the minute that Sander Berg was withdrawn and Kearney came on. Suddenly we had a little bit more freedom across the pitch, right? Suddenly, the chains are off. Kearney's allowed to suddenly move forward with the ball and move into areas that for some reason Berger doesn't ever find himself in, gets a nosebleed if he gets too far up the pitch. So suddenly you've got a little bit more of an attacking threat. And that's simply what he gave us. The minute he steps onto the pitch, and that little bit more of control with a bit more quality. And that made the difference.
It did, Tony. And we've already talked about the goal when we were going through the Cottage talking points. So I want to pose it this way, okay? We described it. I'll ask you this question. Up until this point, before the goal, and just the way the match was going, the first half, and now you make the change with Kearney, do you think Fulham deserved that goal?
100%. 100%. As I said, we were by far the better side. There's no denying it. You can sit there and say, well, Palace did this and did that. We dominated in every aspect of the game. The only thing we didn't dominate is being clinical in the final third when we needed to be. That was it. And as soon as Kearney scores that goal, Russ, I'm sitting there with my son and I'm saying, we're going to win it. We're going to go on and win this game now.
I thought we were going to win too.
And we should have done, is the truth, because we should have done. Because we created two of the best chances that you could ever create to go and win a game.
Okay, so again, Ian Dark said, you know what? I think Fulham now believe that they can win this match, and they got a good chance now to win the match. You could feel it. Here's a weird little thing from the broadcast I got. And I don't know if you got a different broadcast. Initially, I was told, listening to my broadcast, that it was going to be 8 minutes of stoppage time. And then at some point they were like, no, they changed it to 6. Did you get that in your broadcast?
No.
Okay.
Just saw 6 come up. And,
from
the moment that Kearney scored, that meant that there was 16 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
And like I said, we still created 2 very good chances in that 16 minutes.
Oh my Lord. And here's the irony, right? Fulham give up the goal at Craven Cottage off of a corner. And now Fulham are creating the corners at the end of the match. And we're talking about these 2 crazy the fact that Fulham didn't score on this, Tony, is so disappointing, because it felt like it was well-deserved going back to the match at Craven Cottage, right? Giving up that late goal. It felt like this was deserved for Fulham, role reversal, it was our turn because you got us at Craven Cottage. Now we're going to get you at Selhurst Park. By the way, they've not beaten Fulham at Selhurst Park, I think, in a while or something. That was something that they kept talking about. But that's what's frustrating. It was almost role reversal.
Yeah, and like Steve says, it absolutely spot on there. You have to score those chances. You have to.
Yeah.
I mean, the Castagna one, you have. I mean, that has. I'm sitting there. I'm already jumping around the room. Going.
You thought it was in the
mad.
back of that. You thought
I couldn't believe it. I just could not believe that he hasn't scored there. But he's put it in the one place, the only place that Henderson could possibly have saved it by being reactive. By the way, he didn't. It was just react. He just put his hand there. But anywhere else, and any other player on the pitch that's in that position, it's a goal. It's a stone cold goal. So look, they will be disappointed, Russ. No question about it. Marco Silva will be disappointed, and the players will be disappointed that they haven't picked up all 3 points today. No question.
That's why I started the show. We started talking about, was it 2 points drop? You went right there, and it is. And I almost called the show. Fulham should have deserved to win this match or something like that. But again, it wasn't meant to be. But it's definitely encouraging it, like I said, to go in a place like this against a team that Fulham have struggled with for 3 matches, the last 3 too. And I told you going into this, I had a feeling at Selhurst Park it was going to be different. I was right. It was just only a draw, and it should have been more. Let's see. So Ben says, if Castagna's chance fell to Wilson, it would have been a goal. You're probably right. You're
Absolutely.
probably right, Ben.
100%. I would have put my mortgage on it. And the thing is that Castagna and Anderson have cost me my prediction, because I would have been right.
That's right. That's right. You're totally right. It would have been 3-1. I said 2-1. So if one of them scores, exactly, my prediction comes right. So we're both wrong. So shame on both of you players. Shame. I'm kidding. but no. It was. Listen, it was, in the end, it was entertaining at times. It was boring at other times. Nervy. It was a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But exactly. But let's end with man of the match. Tony, who's your man of the match? Plain
and simply, Tom Kearney.
Okay.
That's it. End of story. The guy that, your club captain comes on, changes the game completely, and one moment of brilliance, gets us a valuable point. And he showed absolute, quality when he came on, or showed how it should be done. So for me, Tom Kearney all day long.
Yeah, for me, it has to be Tom Kearney. Okay. So for me, he's man of the match. I want to give a shout out again to Emile Smith-Rowe, though. I wouldn't give it to him, but I would definitely. Ben gives it to Emile Smith-Rowe. I think it's fair.
Yeah, fair shout.
Fair shout to him. Let's see. I'm going to share a couple more. And let's see. Our friend Chris says, man of the match in a poor game has to go to super sub Tom Kearney. Okay. Steve Linyard brings it up. Kearney to start against Liverpool.
Big shout.
What do you think? I don't think he'll do it.
Listen, it all depends on where Josh King is at, what's happening with Tete now.
Yep.
So there's going to be a lot dependent. I mean, it's not a bad shout, to be honest with you. And again, it's brave Silva. If he goes that way, it's brave Silva.
Yeah.
And I think against Liverpool, you definitely need to have your midfielders in control, getting on the ball, slowing things down, speeding things up when you need to, and obviously moving the ball in the right areas. And Tom Kearney is 100% going to give you that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Steve said 65 minutes, right? I mean,
yeah, 100%, 100%, because it gives you the platform.
So to Steve's comments about Kearney to start, the one thing I will say about Marco, whenever Fulham have played Liverpool, in my opinion, who knows? Maybe he will do that. Maybe when it comes to a certain opponent, he'll be brave. He won't be safe Silva, but I don't know. We shall see, but I don't think. Yes, I know, Steve. Liverpool is struggling. We got Chris here. Chris will back that up by saying it's boring sloth versus safe Silva. So, oh man, oh wow. Anyways, listen, Tony, we did this totally on the fly. I contacted you right after the match. I said, listen, let's do a show. And I just want to share this with you because you probably don't know this. So we had a fairly big live audience for our last show. I think it was over 300, right, Tony? Was it over 300? Okay. So we're about to finish up this show. We're currently watching live with us. I want to thank everyone that's watching live. 324.
Wow.
So thank you, everyone, for watching live. And if you're interested and you want more from Cottage Talk, please do subscribe to the Cottage Talk Patreon page. I am now, for the month of January, doing a daily show called Cottage Talk Today, probably about 15 to 20 minutes long. The podcast will be exclusive on this page. And if for some reason I can get 50 new subscribers, paid members, I will continue this. I'm talking about at the end of January. If I can get 50, I will continue this for the rest of this Fulham season. I'm talking about a daily show, which is a lot. But to justify it, honestly, I would need actually 50 new subscribers. So if you're interested, you like the show, please do subscribe. I would love to have you join us. Okay. Tony, final thoughts before we go.
Final thoughts. Look, as I said, 10 points from 4 games. Can't complain, Russ. But obviously, very, very tough game on Sunday. I know people say Liverpool are struggling, Liverpool are this, Liverpool are that. The bottom line is still Liverpool, and they've still got some very good players. They've got some very dangerous players, and we're going to have to play very well on Sunday to get a result. And, that's the brutal reality of it. So I'm looking forward to it because I think it will be a very open, very, very good game. It's exciting. And if we can get something from it, it just keeps us, ticking over until we get the big players back that we've been missing. Yeah. And hopefully we'll start to see some movement in the transfer window.
I hope so. I hope so, Tony. I want to actually give a shout out to the Fulham supporters that were at Selhurst Park. They were loud, Tony. I want to give them a lot of credit.
Absolutely. And a massive Happy New Year to everybody as well. Massive Happy New Year.
Yes. Happy New Year to everyone and to all the Fulham supporters everywhere, because everyone was active on social media before, during, and now after the match. So I want to wish everyone a very happy New Year. And let's see what Fulham can do in this new year for this season. Can they get to Europe? I'm not giving up on that now. I can't believe I've now gone to let's talk about Europe, but it's on the cons. I'll leave it there. It's on the cons to make it happen, bringing in the reinforcements. It can be done. Trust me, it can be done. I'm a son of an accountant. You can figure out the funding on this to get players, and you can be creative, get the players Marco needs to take Fulham to the next level, and then we're off. And that's the way I'm looking at it. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode of Cottage Talk. He's Tony Gold. I'm Russ Coleman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the Talk Sport Fan Network.